We are officially at the stage of the offseason where teams, players, and everyone involved in the organization are starting to look back. What did we do this offseason? How did we do? And a recent ESPN article gave out offseason grades for all 30 NBA teams. And it is a situation, to look at from the Philadelphia 76ers. I think last offseason was arguably the biggest offseason in the Joel Embiid era. What were they going to do? Were they able to go out there and get Paul George? Were they able to go out there and get that max contract ideal player to fit next to Joel Embiid? And they were. They did that. And we saw the results of that last season. Hope for better results this year. Hope for, better health for both Joel Embiid and Paul George, and being able to kind of just stay on the floor together, for more than 5 minutes at a time before one of them getting injured. Tyrese Maxey even said in an interview the other day, he was at like a pickleball charity event for the Tyrese Maxey Foundation, and he basically said, the main goal of this kind of season coming up is just staying healthy, having all our guys out there, because when we have our guys out there, out on the floor, that gives us obviously the best chance to win, but it makes us a dangerous team, especially in this Eastern Conference. So when you look at this recent ESPN article that gives the Philadelphia 76ers a C for their offseason, I think that's an unfair grade. It's a situation where they touch on it here. After last summer was highlighted by signing nine-time All-Star Paul George. In addition, that went south. Perhaps a quiet offseason is for the best, and we'll talk about kind of all the moves that the Sixers have made so far this offseason. But still surprising, Philadelphia is bringing back 10 players from last season's roster, with restricted free agent Quentin Grimes likely to bring that total to 11. 76ers are counting on better health and improved front court depth rather than making significant changes to the roster. And I think going into this offseason, we kind of knew, the writing was on the wall that this wasn't going to be a major offseason unless you were able to trade a Paul George. Joel Embiid was never going to get traded this offseason. No one is taking that risk right now with his looming health issues. But a C, I think the more appropriate grade at this time would probably be, an incomplete, an unfinished. C is kind of just the average there in the mix. They didn't really have much cap space to work with. I think they had to choose between signing Yabu and signing Quentin Grimes. Yabu walks, we'll talk about that, but Quentin Grimes still not a Philadelphia 76er. But I think the major kind of goal of this offseason, and what ideally could even put this into, a B plus to an A minus type of offseason, is if Joel Embiid's knee has recovered, if the recent surgery, if all the recent treatment got him back on the court, got him back to being himself. And I think that was the main goal, of this offseason. We still have a few months to go before the 76ers are playing, but I think you can't really grade this offseason because he's so important. He's such the focal point of this team that his health is the major overlying, issue, but also potential solution for this franchise going forward this year. So 76ers also had the number 3 overall pick. Obviously, they get VJ Edgecombe, they get Janai Broome in the second round, but we'll kind of recap the entire offseason to this point. Recording this on August 1st. You're about a month and a half now into this kind of, next era, I guess, this next push that the 76ers are going with, hoping VJ Edgecombe becomes one of the guys. Quentin Grimes still not back. Yabu walks, but I think a more appropriate grade for this offseason is incomplete. The health of Joel Embiid, I think, is the major thing. The health of Paul George, he falls down in a workout, stumbles, and he's out now with a knee surgery. So it's an interesting situation to monitor, but the overlying cloud that hangs over this franchise is number 21 and his health. That's how vitally important he is to this team, to this organization. So just to recap a couple of the big kind of major moves that the 76ers made. RB says here, Sixers got 2 absolute dogs in this draft, and VJ Edgecombe and Janai Broome. Talking about the two draft picks for the 76ers. Obviously, they take VJ Edgecombe out of Baylor at number 3. A lot of the speculation this offseason was that Ace Bailey was going to be the guy. It sounded like more and more as we got closer to the draft that VJ was their guy. Paul George even said, after that workout where VJ came into the Philadelphia 76ers facility, they left that workout saying VJ is our guy. And then they go and get Janai Broome in the second round. And hitting on VJ Edgecombe, ideally, him becoming an all-star guard is the goal, is the vision for him and his upside, his potential. But I think, in the moment right now, hitting on Janai Broome is almost as important, just because the 76ers, with the front-heavy kind of, cap space that they have with 3 max contract players and Embiid, Maxey, and George, you have to be able to hit on some of these, low-price free agents, like a guy like Gershon Yabusele last year, like going out there and taking that chance on Quentin Grimes and him playing well. Justin Edwards, Kelly Oubre, being able to pay these guys, smaller amounts of money when you have so much cap space allotted to some of your top dogs, some of your top players, you have to be able to hit on these, lower paid players, lower rotation guys. So hitting on this Janai Broom pick is equally as important. And as I said, another reason why I'm kind of marking this grade as an incomplete, because what do you get out of him? He was the 35th pick. He's going to be expected to play, especially in games and minutes that Embiid's not available, not ready to play on the floor. You need to get good, consistent minutes out of Janai Broom for that to be considered, a successful pick. And another reason why I think a C grade's unfair, because, we could look back right now and be like, wow, he was one of the better players of the second round. I'm not a huge believer in Janai Broom. I understand you gotta give out these grades, and it's a little bit premature considering these guys haven't played in the NBA yet. But, we could look back this time next summer, and VJ Edgecombe could be one of the better two-way guards in the league, have a breakout rookie season, and Janai Broom, prove himself to be a solid backup, whether he's playing the 4, playing the 5 in spot minutes, but being able to contribute. We could be looking back and like, wow, the Sixers aced those 2 picks, give them an A for that. So I think it's an interesting situation to kind of monitor. That was kind of the major transaction, getting those 2 guys in the draft this offseason. Quentin Grimes not back yet, but the major, loss of this team is the loss of Gershon Yabusele going to the New York Knicks. Now, it was speculated throughout the entire kind of summer and leading up to free agency that the 76ers would not be able to retain both Quentin Grimes and Gershon Yabusele. And it sounds like the situation with Yabu turned into, the 76ers, I think, priority was Quentin Grimes, but when the money's getting spent out in the free agent market, Yabu kind of didn't want to sit around and wait. He wanted to go out there and make sure he got his spot, he got his bag. It looks like he'll be a solid rotation piece with the Knicks. But for him to be only on a 2-year, $12 million deal, that hurts, especially with the 76ers kind of gaping hole at the 4 spot for this team for this upcoming season. A lot of unknowns. The 4 spot, and outside of the health of Embiid and Paul George, the power forward spot is the major question mark on this roster going forward. So with Yabu walking out the door, that was definitely the biggest detriment, the biggest, thorn in our side this entire offseason. But him walking out is not the end-all be-all. If that's the worst thing that happens to you this offseason, I think that's a pretty, solid offseason. That's a pretty successful kind of offseason. And we talked about it at the beginning, but it was never really believed going into this offseason that there would be any major moves made because of what you did with Paul George last year and just kind of the cap space you already have tied up with Embiid and Maxey as well. But getting your guys fully healthy and back to health, being able to get out on the court, I think is the main priority, the main kind of goal for this 76ers team as they head into this upcoming season. A crucial season, I think, both for Daryl Morey, for Nick Nurse. Can Embiid return to the floor and be 75% of himself? Can he play 45 to 50 regular season games? Can Paul George go out there and be what he once was? No, I don't think so. But can he be, 75 to 80% of what he was? Can he just flat out be on the floor? If he's on the floor, he's going to be a good addition to this roster. That's no beating around the bush. That's no secret there. He's going to be a welcome addition to the roster. But can he be out there? Can this team have continuity and consistently be on the floor together? Can Jared McCain come back after looking like a potential all-star last season? Can he come back and have a good sophomore campaign coming off a knee injury? Your 3 of your probably top 5 scorers on this team with Embiid, Paul George, and Jared McCain all missed significant time last year. Tyrese Maxey missed significant time last year. Can all of those guys come back on the floor healthy? And if they can, I do look at the 76ers roster as a roster that can compete. Will you get Quentin Grimes back as well? That still remains to be seen as we go on through August. I would expect him to be signed by the end of August, whether it's in Philadelphia, they still being a restricted free agent. The Sixers have a chance to match any deal that he potentially signs, but it sounds like his market has dried up as well. So, I think a C grade, say what you want about it, but I think it has to be more so on the incomplete. It's just, this team is all about health. So many ifs, re-signing Justin Edwards, declining his option and signing him to an extension after his kind of breakout rookie year after an undrafted free agent campaign. It wasn't a terrible offseason, wasn't a great offseason, but everything revolves around this health, and that's kind of what I'm looking at. So when we fast forward now to 25-26, and when we kind of summarize the season, how healthy was Embiid and Paul George, I think will ultimately determine the success of this upcoming season. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I know it hasn't been a very exciting offseason, but being able to hit on these draft picks and coming Janai Broom, hopefully being able to sign Quentin Grimes, I think we could look back this time next summer, as long as Paul George and Embiid are healthy, and say, wow, hell of a season, hell of an offseason last year, finding a way to get those guys healthy, and let's move forward and try and make another run at this thing. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below about the offseason. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and we'll be talking to you next time here on Sixers Digest.